What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, back here for another video for you guys today, and we're going to be reviewing the transfer window, summer transfer window 24-25, and I'm seeing a lot of mixed reaction to this transfer window. A lot of very negative reactions to the window, a lot of very positive reactions to the window.
Well, if I go to our Twitter, I put a thing out. What would you rate the window out of 10? And there was a lot of it was very mixed. I would say majority were quite low ratings. I think people probably settled around the 5 mark. I would say a few went as high as 7 or 8. I didn't see anyone like 9 or 10. I think the general consensus from what I could see from the comments is everyone was absolutely thrilled with the outgoings. A lot of people put the outgoings at 9 and 10, and a lot of people put the incomings as low as, some people as low as 2, some people around 4 or 5. That's what I saw.
On the face of things, I think my rating for the window out of 10 is probably around somewhere between a 5 and a 6, I would say. What would you say?
Overall, in terms of the profile of player that we've brought in, I'm happy. I think there's clear unaddressed issues that we haven't brought in, which I think we were promised were going to be addressed, like midfield. A lot of the window we told the midfielder was going to come in. I think obviously backup for Van der Ven / Udogie. We've kind of relied on Spence now, and we don't really have a centre back if Van der Ven gets injured. So that's a big problem. And also, I mean, if you would have told me at the beginning of the window, the winger signings we're going to make, Andrew made a big thing. He wanted to improve the front line. And obviously, Solanke's a great signing. I'm really happy with him. But Werner and Odegaard being the two, winger signings, a bit frustrated about. To be honest, I know we've been banging on this channel about the frustration about bringing Werner back in on loan, and people have been a bit critical that we mention it so much. But that's the only real issue in terms of the front line I have. I actually don't mind Odegaard. I think he's a kind of signing we need. A 19-year-old up-and-coming, someone who's fearless, take people on, a good age, someone we're getting before he becomes a star. But he should have been brought in with a more established winger. And I know Werner is an established winger, you could argue, and he has a long career. But is he good enough to be, one of our starting star wingers? I don't even think he's been brought in to do that. I'm looking at the deadline day, who's the kind of wingers who have gone for very good prices. The likes of Chiesa, the likes of Sancho, the likes of Sterling. I probably would have preferred all 3 of those to Chiesa, to Werner, to be honest.
I mean, we had so many debates throughout the window, didn't we, about do we want Chiesa, do we not want Chiesa? I was always in wanting Chiesa camp, and for like 10 million or 15 million,
yeah, it's a great price.
It's gone for. It's a brilliant price.
But the thing is, I would want Chiesa, to be honest. I would prefer Chiesa. Look, Liverpool have got him, but he's going to be like 6th choice. And as a 6th choice, I mean, you can't get much better than someone like Chiesa. If we're getting him, he's going to be a lot probably higher up the pecking order. So I would want Chiesa in the Odegaard role and a more established one next to him.
I'd prefer him to Timo Werner. Like, if we brought in Chiesa and Odegaard, I would have been a lot happier with.
Chiesa and Odegaard I would have been a lot happier with. Sancho and Odegaard I would have been happy with. Even if we got Sterling, I wouldn't have been mad at that, to be honest.
Look, let's run through the exact transfer business that we did do this summer. So Solanke, brought him in for about 65 million. Archie Gray, 40 million. Odegaard was about 25, 30 million. Bergvall, who came in, but that was a deal that we did last year. Yang Min Hyuk as well, who's come in that we're not going to see until January. So I think with the players there, I mean, I have Timo Werner on loan, obviously. With those players there, I don't have too many problems with any of those players. I like all those players apart from Timo Werner. And I think the Timo Werner deal puts a bit of a kind of a disappointment on the window, because we were told that we're going to really improve those attacking options, and all we've really done is added Odegaard and Solanke to it. And Solanke makes a big difference, but what I really wanted was 2 good wingers that could really help us going in, and a centre forward. So we've got 2 out of the 3, but we needed another real top winger to come in. And if Odegaard was going to come in with alongside a top winger, that would have been completely fine for me. That's why Werner is the one that puts the downer on this window.
And I think that's why people look at Odegaard signing and get frustrated at him, because you're signing a 19-year-old winger from Burnley. Does that smack of ambition? But I think they're probably they should be. I think they're angry at the wrong signing, in my opinion.
It's
That's what I'll say
also
about that.
it's also not just about the players that we brought in. It's also what we haven't done this window. And I feel like we did need a midfielder. I know I kept banging on all windows saying there's no space for another midfielder, and I can't see how we fit one in. But that doesn't mean that we didn't need one. I do feel like we need a monster six. And I do feel like we needed a bit more cover at left back and at left centre back. So I do feel we're a bit short in those areas.
We are short when it comes to in the short term, but in the long term,
we can only talk about this season. Like we can talk about the next 2, 3, 4 seasons.
But we're judging a transfer window on its merits. We're judging a transfer window on how ready we are for this season.
Yeah.
But also, you got to look at the big picture. And I know, and I think Andrew's answer, when asked about signing a centre-back, is a good answer. He said, why would I sign someone, rush into signing cover for that role when we might not, we're not sure if the right player for us is out there right now. Why panic in signing someone and then block the pathway for people like Phillips and Vuskovic next season when they can be ready?
Is that not what they did for Timo Werner, though?
You could argue that, but he's only on loan.
Yeah, so why can't we get a loan cover option for the left back?
We have to find a loan. We have to find a loan option who's better than Ben Davis. For all Ben Davis's faults, he was actually not bad last season when he came in. So, is there any reason to do that? At
left centre back, I have no problem with Ben Davis. I think he can actually cover for one more season. The left back, I've got an issue with.
But then we've got Spence.
Jed Spence, he doesn't look comfortable at left back. He looked comfortable at right back.
Yeah, but. That's true, but also we maybe found a solution last season when we put Van der Ven there, and maybe that's in his thoughts. We looked a lot better in the last few games of the season when Van der Ven were left back. They obviously give more opportunities to Dragushin as well in centre back if that was to happen. So I think we have options. I think the fact also he said Archie Gray. He came in at centre back for a few games in pre-season. He's a versatile player, so I think we do have options. I
don't really want to see Archie Gray centre back in the Premier League.
I think for maybe depending who we're playing, I think he can maybe do a job for a game or two. Like if we need cover, so I actually think we have options there.
If we have similar amounts of injuries and for a sustained amount of time, like we had last season, Van der Ven out for 3 months, Romero out for however long he was out for, and you put Gray at centre back for a prolonged amount of time when we've got like Man City and Arsenal and these big teams in that run, I mean, you're fearing the worst, aren't you?
Course, if Van der Ven's injury, it doesn't matter who comes in. You're fearing the worst, obviously. But
I don't feel the worst when Dragushin comes in, but we needed someone else to come in as well.
Yeah, but you're saying in a scenario where Dragushin and Van der Ven are injured.
We had that last season.
Yeah, I know we had it last season, but okay, Ben Davis can come in. You can't account for every scenario. What if our whole back line's injured? You can't account for all.
Yeah, but come on, all top teams have those options, don't they?
You can't plan your squad around what if 2 defenders get injured.
But all top teams have those options, and we've had a debate before in the past saying if a player doesn't want to come because they're going to be backup, it's up to them to fight their way into the team. And you want 2 quality players in each position, and that's what the top teams have.
Yeah, I do. I think in a perfect world we do that, but I don't think it's like. I don't think the way we've left the state of our defence at the moment is that worrying where I'm going to the season. Obviously, I prefer another centre-back in there. And if an injury to Van der Ven does happen, I'm going to be worried. But I'm looking at in terms of the options we do have to fill in. And depending on how bad the injury is, I think we do have good options. We do have a bit of flexibility there. We do have a few people who can fill in. So, and especially if it's just for a season, and then next season, hopefully, we'll have potentially 1 or 2 centre-backs who might be ready to also join the squad. So I think in that position in the long term, we are looking okay. Like, I don't think it's too bad. In the short term, if we do have another injury crisis like we did last season, if any team has an injury crisis in certain positions, that's just going to happen. You're going to have to put up with it. You can't.
But let's say, for instance, you look at Arsenal, right? If Gabriel and Saliba get injured last year, they would have been in all worlds of bother. But now, they can step in Calafiori, they can step in a Yuri and Timber, they can step in a Ben White.
Right, Timber's a fullback. He's going to have to adjust.
Yeah, but he's also played a lot of his career at centre back.
I know, but we don't know how good a centre back is going to be in the Premier League. You know what I mean? Calafiori obviously good, but we have Dragushin to come in. Again, they have options.
As well.
Right, exactly. A versatile player, a bit like Archie Gray. He's also a versatile player. Obviously, Gray's a lot younger, but we also do have options. Maybe their options are better than ours. And yes, I would like more depth, but I don't look at that position and think we're screwed right now. I don't look at the defence and think, oh my God, how are we going to survive the season? I think it's okay, it's all right. And if we do go through an injury crisis, that can happen, and we'll cross that bridge when it comes to it. Let's hope it doesn't happen. But I think we've got 3 senior centre-backs, and we've got Davis and Gray, who can all fill in there.
Another thing what I'm a bit disappointed about from this window is just like, maybe it's just press talk and maybe I just got sucked into it all, but like right at the beginning, they were talking about players like Eze coming in, big players like Gyökeres. Gyökeres was never seriously mentioned, but the players that were linked with Spurs were like kind of really ambitious signings. And the press were talking about it. All these ITKs were talking about like, yeah, Eze, Spurs love Eze, Spurs are going to go for Eze, all this kind of stuff. And then when you end up with the players that, an Odebear and a Timo Werner, it's just a bit underwhelming, isn't it?
I don't think it is underwhelming. I don't think anyone could deny that. I think we wanted serious investment on the wing, and the fact we've ended up spending 25 million on 2 wingers, one of them on loan, which we saw last season, can be a good player on his day, but is very frustrating, is inconsistent. You don't know what Werner's going to turn up all the time. So the fact that we didn't invest heavily in a winger on the right or the left side, that is probably one of my biggest frustrations of this window, in my opinion. I think we definitely had the funds to do it. I think we could have spent big, especially given all the outs we've had. We probably could have spent big instead of loaning Timo Werner. And the fact as well, we loaned Timo Werner, very quickly after the season ended.
He was our first signing.
Yeah. So was there any need to rush into that deal? I don't think so. So unless the plan is to loan him and then like with a view of next season spending bigger, but there's no why wait. I don't see the reason to wait.
What he was saying, Ange, about if you can't find the right player in terms of the centre-backs, and he wants to create that pathway for Phillips and Vuskovic, right? Do you remember we had this conversation at the back end of last season saying, or at the end of last season, I was saying signing, or I think it was when we actually signed Timo Werner, I was saying signing Timo Werner could be actually creating that pathway for Mikey Moore. And, I think we had a bit of a debate about it. You disagreed with it at the time, but I feel like that could be the case.
No, we'll wait and see. It remains to be seen whether Mikey Moore is ready for Premier League football. He looks good in pre-season so far.
But Ange says he's going to be here and he's going to get minutes, he's going to get a shot at it.
Doesn't mean he's ready, right? So it still remains to be seen. I'm all for giving him chances. He said he's going to definitely look. What was interesting,
but I'm saying creating a pathway for the future, not creating a pathway for this season.
Yeah, let's see. And maybe you're right, and maybe that's his viewpoint. Maybe he's thinking, if I loan Werner, I bet in Mikey Moore, play him in Europa League and whatnot. Maybe come the end of the season, he's ready to maybe even start some games, and then the next season he might be ready to actually be one of the starters. Maybe that's his view. And if that is the plan, if that is the plan, that's really exciting. And I'm all for that. And if he really believes that Mikey Moore can actually, like in the very near future, be like a star for us and actually really contribute and be getting goals and assists regularly in the Premier League, then fantastic. Again, it remains to be seen whether that's the case. But I mean, all I can say is he looked great in pre-season. What's interesting, when he was mentioning Mikey Moore and Will Lancashire in his press conference, he was saying, when he's saying he thinks they can contribute, I felt his language was quite interesting. He says whether that be Carabao Cup, Europa League, or even the league, I think they can get minutes. So I felt like the way he worded that, I think it gave an indication of where his mind's at and where he's going to play them.
That says to me, obviously, and I think this is how we all felt at the time. They get their chances in the cup games and the Europa League first of all, and if they really make a proper impact, then we talk about the league.
A bit like Kane. That's how Kane did it as well.
And it's like how a lot of young players come through. But look, on the face of things, like I said, I like the players that we've brought in. Timo Werner's a bit of a problem, and for the incomings, I'll probably give it, because of what I feel what we're missing for incomings alone. I think I'll probably give it a 5 for incomings alone.
I'll probably give it. So incomings, have we done enough? Probably not. It's underwhelming, but the profile of players we have brought in, I am happy with. I think Gray, I was saying how much we needed a versatile player, and I know he's young, but he kind of fits that build midfield. He can play across the back line. I feel like he's one of these players, a bit like, in a way, like a Kanji, can play right back, centre back, and also do a few different, also filled in midfield a few spots. I actually see that kind of being maybe a future kind of position for him. Obviously, Bergvall, delighted with him. Obviously, he's also very young, but he could potentially contribute in the short term. I think Solanke is an absolute perfect. That's a near 8 or 9 out of 10 signing. And I think Odebear, very good profile, but not much experience. Only one season in the Premier League. We'll have to see how ready he is to actually be getting goals and assists. Albeit, I think he got 5 goal contributions last season for a relegated Burnley side. If he can double that this season, that won't be too bad. So I'm gonna give it a 6 out of 10.
6. And also, for this window, we saw the first of its kind, didn't we? Ever seen in the Premier League. A loan with an option to buy without a loan.
Yeah,
for
exactly.
Johnny Cardoso, obviously a Brazilian player, by the way, but he is an American, plays for America, but he was brought up in Brazil. Very interesting one. We do apparently only have next summer to take up the option, and that's it.
So I guess we're just going to be keeping an eye on him this season to see exactly how good he develops and if he's the right player for the six. Look, when you're talking about a monster six, by the way, I think when it comes to his numbers in La Liga, tackles, interceptions, all that kind of stuff, how much ground he covers, I think he's near the top of the pile. I think he was one of the best for tackles, interceptions, and if that's what you're looking for, he could well be the answer. So that could be very interesting when it comes to Spurs activating that clause, and 100% one to keep an eye on. As you say, the clause is only a year, and if he is the answer for 30 million, I mean, you can't really say no at that price. 30 million euros, that is. So definitely one to keep an eye on, and that could also be like a really stroke of genius if it turns out that he's the player we're looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. And the outgoings, I think we've done really well at, really well. So I've given a 5 for the incomings. I think I would give probably an 8 or a 9 for the outgoings. So probably the mark I gave at the beginning of the beginning of the video is probably a bit, doesn't really make sense because I've given those ratings. So I'll probably, all in all, the window has to be 6.5, 7 if you're taking into account the outgoings, because we've failed so many times, so many summers with these outgoings. Just look at the list that we've got out this window. So Manuel Solomon's gone on loan for the year. Eric Dyer finally left the club. Alejo Veliz has gone on loan. Tanguy Ndombele, we cut the contract short. Ashley Phillips has gone on loan. Ivan Perisic left. Dane Scarlett's gone on loan. The only player, and Giovanni Lo Celso's gone, the only player still here that we wanted to get out was Sergio Reguilon, pretty much. And potentially Ben Davis,
and he might
if you
still
want to
leave
put him in that count. And Reguilon still might leave with the Turkish window open for the next 13, 14 days. So I think the club have done a really good job getting all the players out. Interesting to hear that Alfie Devine ended up staying. I don't think he can get loan now, can he?
I remember a few years ago the Championship loan was a bit longer than the Premier League one, but I don't know if that's still the case, so I'm going to assume probably not. Apparently he did have a few offers from Europe, and I do think there are a few European windows still open, so whether that is something I'll look at, we'll have to see.
Do you think
I'm quite happy to keep him around.
Yeah, do you think if he does stay, he'll get his chance in the Cups and the Europa League?
I
think in pre-season he was one of the most impressive players.
Definitely, I think Europa League, I don't see why not. Maybe not starting, because we are chock-a-block at the moment in terms of, especially when you're now adding Decky as a midfielder, definitely short of spaces that you can find him. But I definitely see him coming off the bench, and maybe even in the later rounds if we're already through getting some minutes. And now you look at that midfield, you've got Devine, Bergvall, Gray as 3 young options. You've got Decky, Maddison, Sarr, and you've got Bentancur, Basuma. So as much as people can say, I want another midfielder, I mean, there's a lot of talent there. And yes, you could say, oh, well, Basuma's inconsistent. Bentancur's not his best. Maddison can get injuries. Yeah, but that's a negative thinking about it. You could also say, yeah, but what about when Basuma's at his best? And what about when he was playing like he consistently was for Brighton? What about Bentancur when he was fully fit and how good he was?
We haven't seen that for Spurs, though. That's the thing.
What about Maddison? We know how good he could be for Leicester and how good he was for the first half of last season.
But I think both viewpoints are valid.
But I'm not saying they're not valid, but I'm saying a lot of people only focus on the negative ones. I think you can definitely look at our midfield, and when they're at their best, they can give anyone a game. And you can give everyone a run for their money.
The reality is that they haven't been at their best consistently for a while now. That's the reality.
They haven't been at their best, yes, but doesn't mean that can't change. I don't know how they've been in training. All I can say is Basuma looks quite good at the moment. Bentancur is looking very sharper than he ever was. Not ever was, but definitely since his injury, the sharpest he's ever looked. Maddison's looking like his old self again. So that's what I'm seeing right now. Yes, you can say, yeah, but look at the back of the last season when we're getting better. Look at this, look at that. Right now they're looking good, and maybe he's seeing that thinking, actually, I feel like I've got enough here. And he's looking at Gray and Bergvall. Look how much they contributed in pre-season, and look how good they look like when they come off the bench. They look like they're ready for the Premier League and ready to contribute. when you're going to fit in Divine into that as well, it'll be very interesting to see how he adapts to Premier League. Obviously, he was in the Championship last season for Plymouth. They had a kind of mixed end to the season, but he did all right, it seemed. And maybe he can also contribute. And Decky's looking on fire in the middle. So I'm actually quite excited. I mean, obviously, I didn't even mention Sarr, who for a large part of last season was one of the most consistent midfielders. And is all still so young, also 21. So, or 22 now probably. But so I think we have so much talent in that midfield. I think there's so much to be excited about. There's so much to look forward to. And I think once we get these midfielders get going again, and once we get into the season they're playing consistently, I think people are going to be a lot more positive about our options, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think if we can get a result or two in the next couple of games, Newcastle and Arsenal, I feel like the fan base will flip 180 and it will be super uber positive, and nobody will be able to keep our feet on the ground.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially with we're watching the Arsenal game as I speak, and Declan Rice got sent off, so that means out for the Spurs game.
One game, it looks like there's a second yellow, 2 yellows.
They're playing us next.
Oh. Come on! Come on! Well, you saw what happened when Rice went off in the Emirates. You saw what happened.
You did. But look, that is our review of the transfer window. I want to know...
So my rating, by the way, for outgoings, I'm going to give a 9 out of 10.
So what's it totally? So you've given 7 and a 9? 6 and a 9.
6 and a 9, so what's that? 7 out of 10, essentially. Which is what I actually said.
So you give 7 out of 10, I'll give 6 out of 10.
Because I also think the fees we've gotten for the outgoing players like Højbjerg, Emerson, yes, maybe...
I didn't even mention Højbjerg going out, yeah.
Those kind of fees, yes, you could argue at the beginning of the window, should we be looking for 20 million for Emerson? Should we be looking for 20 million for Højbjerg? I mean, we've got 20 million euros. But I'm happy that instead of holding out for every last penny, all right, we took a couple million off and just agreed the deal.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, I'm happy with doing that.
Something that we've never done before.
And overall, we've actually, how much have we raised? Because the Celso went, we probably raised what? So, over 50, 60 million?
Quite a bit of money, yeah.
Yes, obviously we spent all of that on transfers and probably all of that on Solanke, but every little helps, and it helps with PSR and everything like that. So I'm really happy with the outgoings, I think. And also, you look at our second 11 now, instead of having like people like Emerson come in, people like Højbjerg come in, Solomon come in, people like Lo Celso coming in, he's a good player, but people like him coming into the team, you've now got Bergvall, you've got Spence, you've got one of Bentancur or Basuma, you've got Odegaard or Johnson or Werner coming in. Like, I think even up front, instead of Richarlison starting, you got him on the bench if he ever stays fit, but if you got him on the bench. So and also with Decky in his new role, he's going to be like a new player this season in his new role. So I'm looking at the makeup of the squad, and I think the second 11 is a lot better than it was last season. I think the squad in general, in terms of how everyone fitting into Ange's philosophy, a lot better than it was last season. Yes, there are still holes, but people saying we have always only one improvement from the first 11, and I understand the argument. There is maybe some legitimacy. You could argue Solanke's the only improvement to the first 11, but I'd argue we've got a bloody good first 11. Look at how good they were in the first 10 games last season, and also the main issue last season was when we got injuries and players coming in, stepping in, not really doing a job that Ange needed them to do, and we didn't have a great squad. I think our squad's in a lot better position right now. So I'm not saying we're going to win the league. I still think we're short of quality compared to the teams above us. Have we closed the gap, and are we closer to our Ange kind of squad? I really believe we are now.
Well, it's all going to be revealed very, very soon. Big games coming up. I'm slightly more positive about the transfer window now. We've had this nice little discussion, but I feel like me, myself, and many other people as well probably also do need to realise that, and I've been saying this as well to Brian a bit, that I feel like the rebuild isn't complete yet. And I feel the rebuild by next summer should be complete. And I feel like if we keep going in this way, make the signings that we need to make to fill those little gaps in the squad now. Because you look at the beginning of last season, how many gaps we had in the squad, and how many gaps we have now. It has reduced by a massive amount. So I feel like by the end of next summer transfer window, we fill those gaps, because we are filling gaps in the right way, then we should be a force in this league.
Yeah, and as I said, if I look at the squad now, apart from maybe Davis, I look at I don't want to bang on about Werner again, but maybe Werner. Actually, I think most of these players now are really players that Ange can do something with and can work with. I think there aren't too many players now. We knew Højbjerg and Emerson, these players, we just knew they weren't going to be playing Ange ball. They're not technical enough. And now we've got a bunch of really good technical players, and that's what I'm really excited about.
All right, well, there you have it. That is the transfer window roundup. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Like, subscribe, and comment. And as always, come on, you Spurs.